Welcome to YourCompass.tv. My name is Princella Stringer, life coach, embodiment guide, and meditator. And I want to share with you all about my partners at YourCompass.tv. We have Kayleigh.
Hey guys, Kayleigh here, your sex and relationship expert.
And I'm Danielle, your human design mechanic and cosmologist.
In this episode, we talked about so much. Here we're asking the question, what is the point of your life? You are at a place where you want no more drama. You want to start healing trauma. You want to embody how to live your fullest, best life by breaking those patterns. If you want to hear more about this, hang tight, join us in the conversation and leave comments and let us know about the journey that you're on today.
I'd feel a connection with us, like, me too. I think that's for me is like, oh my gosh, I'm not alone.
Yeah.
There's someone else out there who feels this way or who's looking for this or who's providing this. This is exactly what I'm looking for. I think that's like the message I want to convey in this is like, hey, we have a tribe for you. Come join us. You're not alone. Let us be in your tribe.
Yeah. I think it's such a beautiful thing how we each have different elements to bring to that tribe, and pulling everybody together to feel that safe space like we've talked about so many times. And what a challenge it is to actually find that for yourself, to feel that comfort in yourself within, a new family. And you feel that rapport of togetherness. I think that it's actually empowering to feel that when you meet somebody and you feel that so quickly.
All right. Thank you guys so much for joining us here. We really appreciate you looking into what we have to offer. We're really excited to share with you today a little bit about each one of our unique gifts and a little bit about our experiences, what we're creating. I'm going to pass it to Kayleigh. Kayleigh, I just asked you a question a minute ago. What is the name of this and where did it come from?
So the name of what we're doing is called Your Compass. And the reason we came up with that is I had a coaching session with one of my fellow coaches and going through some religious trauma and coming out of that. And when you're in a religion, it's typically, that's your compass for life and you follow everything it says. And she just gave me the permission to say, hey, I can be my own compass and I can lead the way for myself. And that was so freeing to realize that, yes, I can be my compass and I can help other people find that they can be their own compass too. So when I met with Princella and we were coming up with names, I was like, what about compass? And she brought in the your part, which I thought was beautiful because it's really focusing on the individuals, the people, and saying this is your journey, this is your compass. So that's how the name came about. And it's kind of, I think, encompasses the whole mission of what we're doing. So
yeah, that's absolutely, that's beautiful. And yeah, it really does because, just like you were saying with like religion or spiritual teachings or even just societal conditioning, there's so much like external pressure and programs to really, it takes us away from having our own internal moral compass or what we believe in, our worldview. So, and I think that that's really beautiful about what we're bringing here is helping people with our unique different skills to have like a multi-armed approach to really accessing like your uniqueness and you being your own authority. So, it's really awesome. I love the name. Princella, what are you bringing here?
Well, let's see. Where do I begin? Let's see. Meaning, in other words, there's so much passion that's really behind this project that we're doing together. So when I say, where do I begin? It's about like how this journey even started. And so many of us can talk about the journey in our life that really impacted where we are today. And I think that that's the thing that I want to share with others is how important and valuable their journey is. Their journey in life led them to where they are today, whether it's where they want to be, or maybe they found some level of success, and just helping others see that there's so much beauty in all of that. You hear so much about people talking in social media about I'm blessed in my mess and things like that. But what I'm really hoping will come to this and what I want to support and nurture others to feel is the reality of that. It's so easy to say, but internally, do we really feel that? Internally, are we embodying that and saying things, expressing things, and sharing things and loving on others, believing that? Because when we really believe that, this beauty of showing it within myself, to accept others just as they are, and others learning what it means to accept themselves just as they are, but also accepting others just as they are, and helping form the language around that and being able to express it.
That's beautiful. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and it's amazing. We have, different systems that we use and different tools that really can map out your unique features and mechanics and how you operate. And just like Princella was saying, we can accept people for who they are and accept ourselves and not feel the need to like be an external authority to other people too, right? Because sometimes like Kayleigh, like you were saying, the religions and all these programs, sometimes we can also be that way to other people. So yeah, it's really freeing to be yourself and then also allow other people to be themselves. And on like a specific level, it's not just like a vague thing like, okay, you can do whatever you want, no boundaries, those kind of things.
Right.
We're providing a lot of different tools here from, human design to communication to embodiment practices. We have a lot of different events and different things that we want to share with you guys and courses. So yeah, we're really excited to share that. Kayleigh, do you want to tell us maybe a little bit more about like your journey of like the experiences you've had and just like the education, your interests, what kind of led you to kind of develop the programs that you're bringing?
Yeah. So I am a trained Somatica sex and relationship coach. And what led me to that specific training is it goes back to religion, like a religious trauma of being told how I need to act, being told what my role is as a woman, in all aspects of my life, and just realizing how freeing it is when I just open up my world to what I can do, right? Not what someone's telling me to do, but what I can bring to the table, and not someone telling me what my pleasure should be. I'm really big into owning pleasure every day. And there's so much good out there, and let's find pleasure in everything, not just from sex, but from even if you have a yummy coffee that you love. Like, how can we feel that in our body? Because I think we get taught, yep, there you go. We get taught so much to ignore that, especially when we are being taught to be people pleasers, right? Just say yes, just do this. So leaving the church that I was part of, I was just searching for something that could empower me to be who I was without apology, and to bring that to other people and help other people find who they are without apology, and to live authentically and feel what it feels like to feel good in your body. I spent a lot of my life ignoring that and not feeling. And so I joined the Somatica practice and learned all these tools from boundary setting, because yes, it's okay to have boundaries with people. It's actually healthy and it feels really good. And it's okay to have, let's do things that bring us joy without apology. And like really learning that journey and what that means, and then realizing, man, I see so many people in the world who aren't doing this. They're living for everyone else around them, and they think it's selfish to do something for themselves. So I almost want to help people be more selfish and love the life that they have and love pleasure in all forms, and not feel shame or guilt, because that's another thing I was taught, like pleasure equals shame and guilt. You should hide yourself, don't be you. And it just wears you out eventually. I think eventually all of us go, man, like, what am I doing? Whose life am I living right now? And it's exhausting. So learning the tools to let go and to be present and to feel the joy is what I really like thrive on, and I want to bring to the table for everybody. It'll be good.
Awesome.
I'm excited to bring all sorts of yumminess to this.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I love that you always bring that word in, pleasure, because it feels like such an intimate word. And why not like have it be an intimate experience of that joy that you're bringing into life? I love you introduced me to that.
Aw.
Yeah, it's really interesting, even when we look at like the codes and look at just the mechanics of like how our world operates and, the religious stuff and the societal programming and everything. Like you're saying, we suppress like our own needs and we sacrifice ourselves so much, for the sake of, whatever we believe will happen from that, whether, okay, these people will see my value or they will take care of me then, or if I don't speak up about my needs, I'm being selfless in a way that's so moral and you feel good about yourself. But then later you realize, wow, I have a lot of resentment because I'm not able to really clearly communicate what I need or get my needs met. I don't have the right boundaries. I'm having issues with relationships and there's a lot of internal conflict that goes into that. So the communication piece, knowing yourself fully, right, on a mechanical, differentiated, unique level. And then from there, being able to expand your awareness and consciousness and adjust your paradigms, like how you think about life, right? Just like Princella was saying, it's not personal. Things aren't personal all the time, even though if they seem like they are. A lot of times there's mechanics and dynamics and things that are just like coded into how we operate, but it's all dependent on our perspective, how we handle it, and if we're really true to ourselves or not, right? So every opportunity, every moment is like an opportunity to, am I really being fully myself? Am I embodied? Like Kayleigh was saying, we have to like get into our bodies.
Yes.
It's so hard to balance the mind and the body,
And we're not taught that.
Right.
We're not.
Yeah.
I have something. I do have something. So when in this journey of training in Somatica, I read a book. It's called, I can't remember the author. We'll write it in the description, but it's called Come As You Are. Have you guys heard of that book? No. It's fantastic, and it's just about women empowerment and women just like owning their sexuality and who they are. But in that book she talks about how we all have a garden, and when we're born, our garden is who we are, but then people plant things in there, right? So your parents, your religion, outside people plant it, even things that you watch, you hear, everybody's planting in your garden. And then you kind of grow up and you're like, I actually don't like carrots in my garden. And we don't give ourselves the permission to pluck it out and put what we want in our garden and put up a fence, like a boundary around our garden and say, hey, I'm so happy that works for you, but I don't want that in my garden. And so like that visual to me was life-changing of, oh, I have control over my garden. It doesn't matter what my parents planted in there. I can pluck that out and I can put what I want in there. It doesn't matter what planted what in there. Like I have control of how my garden looks. And I think it's just a really good visual for, in general, for everyone going forward of, oh, I do have the permission, kind of like what you were saying, Danielle, like you have the permission to authentically live in your life. And you don't need, you can have the influence of others and you can take it or leave it, right? And it's going to affect you depending on where you are in your life, but it's okay to not put it in your garden. And I think it's a really good visual for people if you're a visual learner. So I just loved it. So I just wanted to share it.
Yeah, I'm currently reading this book, so it reminds me of what you were talking about. There's a psychologist named Dabrowski, and the book I'm reading right now is called Personality Development Through Positive Disintegration. And so he studied how people have different, ways that their brains operate, right? And so we can look at people that are like gifted or just even like learning disabilities and different things like this. And basically all the studies and things that he's done is about disintegrating, right? Or plucking out the carrots, and developing your own compass, like your own internal understandings of things and questioning, right? Questioning like all these programs and conditionings that we've been taught. And that's actually what separates people that are on I don't want to say like a higher level of intelligence, but studies show that, if we question things and we don't just kind of do things based on the pressure, right? Because it is really hard to just fully be yourself sometimes, because we have trauma, we have attachment style issues, right? Which Kayleigh knows all about, and is going to help us with the attachment style so that we can heal that and learn to communicate in this other way based on our own reflections, our own perspectives, and really developing like, okay, yeah, do I want those carrots in the garden? Or, you know, what's really me and what's actually just been like instilled in me or like brainwashed into me?
Yeah.
And do I really believe that? Do I really want to take that on and have that as like my identity and my own compass? Or am I developing my own worldview, my own ability to stand in my full self, right? And be able to have the words and the confidence in yourself to communicate fully and in like a graceful way, right? And balancing that, like, okay, I'm not a doormat and I'm not like an aggressor, right? Especially with relationships, because we're going to be learning a lot about ourselves through our dynamics and especially with our relationships. And so that's going to tie into the sexuality, the attachment styles, the communication. And we can use our relationships as our number one like teaching tool, right? And always opportunities to, every time there's like a situation, a drama or a dharma, a conflict or a disagreement, that we can do something different than we did before, right? We can communicate in a different way. And every time, like if you're saying, oh, I should really say something about this, or I have a feeling in my body and I don't know what it means, or I'm feeling anger, or any of these physical chemical processes that go on in your body, we can start to break that down and look at it and say, okay, well, there is a purpose for it. Like your body is communicating signals to you. It's saying, hey, okay, like someone's crossed your fence and they're putting the carrots back in there, or they're whatever. And again, not seeing that from like a personal standpoint, learning to be more objective in communication so that we don't feel like we have to project our emotionality onto people in order to like try to get our way, because really that's just fear underneath all that, right? It's like fear. So that's what I love about what we're doing together, because we're able to approach this from like all different angles, provide like a lot of different tools, all the necessary things from healing your trauma, working with your relationships, knowing your unique self on like a very precise level, right? A mechanical level, and then adapting your communication, adjusting how you use words and you know how you operate in life in general, so that you can actually really be your full self. And whatever's not correct for you as you're your full self, right? They're not going to keep trying to come back to your garden, or those things that don't work. It's like, that's fine, right? I'm here to be myself. And for me personally, from all the stuff that I've worked on and experienced and read and studied and all this stuff, and just like my own personal reflections, I think that that's like on a macro level, the purpose of our life, right? Is to really, can we embody ourselves fully, accept ourselves, and like be our full selves in every moment and in our communication. And when we're not, right, that's also a learning opportunity, and everything is always, you know, in that moment to be able to alchemize or to transition and not embed in ourselves these patterns, right? We want to break these patterns that we're in so that we can have less suffering, less resistance. And the more you're yourself, the better you start to feel, the more communication you have. You know, the beauty of being able to translate your experiences, your consciousnness, your perspective, your awareness into a way that others can understand is like really, really gratifying and satisfying, and just a beautiful, beautiful process. So I'm just really excited to see what comes out of all this, you know?
No.
Yes.
It's a moment
and
to
one
get
of the things-
curious.
Yeah, right. One of the things that I think that you alluded to in the beginning were all of the programs and activities that we'll be doing together within this group, and talking to others through this YouTube channel, which I'm really excited about. But there's something amazingly beautiful about coming together as a group and working together with our energies as a piece of the collective, right? And working together in that capacity. But there's also something really important about that one-on-one time. And that's one of the things that we want to bring to our future retreats and courses and things like that, how we can empower and love on each other together in all those ways that we've been talking about. But then if you need that one-on-one time to how do I really implement this into my life and your life, how do I really it looks different for someone over here and I feel like it's different for me in my life, so how do I implement it? But many times you'll find out that it's actually ends up being the same kind of approach. I'll bet Danielle can speak more on that because the issues that arise and come up, it really is all about how we're listening to our body, understanding how our authority works and how our decision making happens. And I'm excited that we'll have the Somatica, we'll have the human design, group coaching, one-on-one coaching, and something that I found really amazing is Danielle's, I'm going to introduce your video, Danielle. Danielle's video on the code of existence. If you want to understand like the broader scope of the code of existence, my gosh, I'm going to put the link in the description, but it's something that you've really got to watch and take your time digesting it because then we can see through that. Obviously, it's Danielle's video, but I'm just going to say my interpretation is that we can see through that how much we are intertwined with each other, with the universe, with the stars, with beyond the
Right.
stars. It's just beautiful.
Awesome. Well, thank you. I really appreciate that. And, I haven't really introduced myself too much, but I did want to share with you guys, like I'm an Uber geek and I geek out on, learning these different systems. I studied astrology for many, many, many years. I went into all these different spiritual practices and psychology, and like from a young age, like I bought the DSM, I think it was the DSM-4 when I was like 12, which is a diagnostic manual for like psychologists.
That's a
My
lot to
mom
digest at 12.
yeah, yeah.
It's amazing.
So I've like done a lot of psychology and
Yeah.
self-help stuff. I traveled for many years outside the States working with like indigenous people, and I had a nonprofit and we were doing different projects and we did a lot of like plant medicine and got into the human design system, which is already a system that synthesizes many other systems. And I'm into quantum physics and astronomy, and so I kind of bridge all of these things together. I'm not really someone who purports like a lot of spiritual, teachings and things like that. I think that each one of us really can develop our own, and I think all that's important. I went down a lot of those different avenues, but really what I like to look at is like genetics and science and neutrinos, and the systems that I work with are science based, right? It's not a spiritual woo woo belief system. So we're really able to give you like precise information uh, from using all these different angles. And so that's what I like to do. I like to geek out on that, look at the micro, like the individual, and Princella helping with like the embodiment, right? That's the other part of this, is that we can get all the information we want, but if we don't actually put it into practice, and I always tell people if you can do it twice, 2 times, right? Just breaking that cycle with whatever it is that you're working on. If you're like, okay, I want to start speaking up more, or I want to try to be more vulnerable, I want to be more authentic about this or that. I'm still in this situation that I'm uncomfortable with and I haven't said anything. All right, next time I'm there, I'm just going to say, okay, look, I'm a little bit uncomfortable, or address it in some way. Do it 2 times, and then now you start to feel what it feels like to be your full self. And it's not that bad, right? And actually, people respect you. You start to get your empowerment, right? You start to get power from that. And you change the way that you're interacting with your life, right? And that's what I think is so beautiful about all this, because we have all these different approaches, and the embodiment, the group work, the one-on-one, the classes and videos, and the podcast and different things that we're doing. And, I'm excited to like geek out with you guys because we can look at that micro. And I love looking at the macro. I'm like, okay, but what is the point of your life, right? Like, what are you doing here, right? Because a lot of times what we think is important, again, it's the carrots. Those are just the carrots that were in the garden. And then we realize, wait, that's actually, why did I live my whole life based on these carrots in my garden that I didn't put in there, right? And wait a second, right? And that's the awakening. People talk about awakening and, going to 5D and all these, spiritual systems and things may talk about that. But I think that's really what it is, right? It's just being able to understand and differentiate like, okay, this is not actually me. Oh, this is actually, right? And then moving from there and starting to see a reality shift and things coming in differently. And the main thing is that your awareness, your perception of what's happening, and your ability to communicate and to work with it becomes a lot easier. Doesn't mean that you don't have suffering. Doesn't mean that you're going to get billions of dollars and you're going to be this and that. Because again, it's about your consciousness. It's about your awareness. It's about that to me is what God is, right? Like your relationship with your existence and how much of yourself you're really being, right? Not what your mind thinks, because again, that's where all the carrots are. And the mind can help us weed it out and say, okay, these are not mine. But starting to embody it, starting to feel it, understanding the signals in your body, and exploring, getting curious about, okay, what if I did things different? What if I'm just like fully myself and what's going to happen? What are people going to do? Right. So, yeah.
I think there's an understanding that needs to happen too, that like you just said, doing it 2 times, this takes practice. It takes practice. And that is something that I am passionate about, is let's practice together in a safe space where there's no shame, there's no guilt, there's no threat. Like, let's practice together and what it's like to set boundaries, to speak your voice, to all those things. Let's practice together. Because the more you practice, like you said, the better you feel. And you're like, I actually can do this. It's, oh, wait, I have this, I got this. And I think it's just like, that's just beautiful. If you're like, just do it 2 times. Let's practice together. It's okay. We can do it together. I can hold you. I can hold the space.
Yeah.
I love that.
And I think that everybody kind of establishes what is their thing, because it's so funny you said that, Danielle, because I had a 3 strikes rule. That's what I always grew up with. 3 strikes and you're out. You know what I mean? So I adapted it to be me stepping into something or a decision I thought I wanted to try or something I wanted to do. I would try 3 times. And if it didn't click, then that's it. I let it go. And that was my way to practice it, and I think, whatever resonates with people, but that's what I learned in human design. I think the next level of that for me was in human design, learning about my authority. Oh my gosh, it was just, it's an amazing thing. And one thing I think that others might identify with in here is, in this group that will be drawn to this group, is that process of maybe whatever it might be, finding your voice. But of course, your voice can come through many different avenues, like actually speaking or expressing or dance or singing. But for me, I wanted to use my voice more, and I was so shy. I just know so many are going to relate to this, that when I wanted to speak, my brain would go completely blank and numb, and I wouldn't know what to say. And I would actually, like Danielle saw earlier, you're going to cry, that would come up. But now I can be like, yep, I'm the emotional one and I'm okay with it. But there was a time where I would get so embarrassed. I was like red everywhere. And I literally burst, and all I could do was cry. Right. So I had to make a decision. Is this important to me to get over this? And what can I do to practice this? And so it went from so shy, couldn't say anything, to being overbearing, speaking over people, cutting people off, which is why I struggle with that now, cutting people off. But, finding my voice in that. And now I feel like I'm at a place where I'm trying to balance it, but it's still a work in progress. I mean, I don't know if you guys have some short stories to share about finding yourself or something like that, and kind of what led to us all feeling so passionate about supporting others in that.
Yeah. I guess I'll go first.
Yeah.
Well, like I was saying about the DSM when I was so young, and the reason being was because, like, when I was a very young child and toddler, I I would I would kind of do like what you said, Princella, where you would just kind of like all of a sudden have like a meltdown, to the point where I'd like literally pass out. Like my parents had to watch me because I would pass out. And all through my childhood, as all of us, any human that exists has trauma and, difficulties with attachments and family stuff and all that. And when I was younger, I couldn't really communicate what was going on. So I was super emotional, right? And reactive because I couldn't really process and communicate. Even into my teen years, it was just like, I left my house when I was 16, and, then I left the country. So I was like, okay, I need to figure out what I want to do with my life, because I didn't really ever fit the mold, right? I went to a private school, a Lutheran school, and the religious stuff too. And, yeah, uniforms and church on Sundays and all. And there's nothing really super wrong with that, if you're still able to think outside of it as well and question things. But, it was a very difficult time for me. That's why I left my house when I was 16. And yeah, I mean, I always used to tell people, oh, I have a throat chakra blockage. And so I started studying it. I started studying communication. I started practicing, okay, what's the best way to handle this situation? Because me being emotional, me being really reactive or protesting about like what I don't like and I can't get my needs met, all other strategies, I tried to do it by being selfless or not talking about my needs, not trying to be difficult, all those kind of things really was not working. And so that's what I've been working on for the last, I don't know, 10, 15 years, is really kind of coming more into that, communication and just being clear and trying to be objective, trying to not let that emotional chemical feeling in the body, like the heat when you get like upset and all of that, because it kind of shuts down your brain and then you can't think straight and you're trying to communicate and it's coming out from the trauma, from the fear, right? So there's a lot of practice in that to, as you feel that, like, okay, let me slow back down. It is important. I do need to communicate. How can I be objective? How can I stop blaming and accusing or being a victim, right? Or victimizing, because that's the distortion, that's the imbalance. That is where now we're creating, a victim pattern, right?
Mhm.
That doesn't help anyone. It doesn't create that space for, the person that you're approaching to give you what you need, right? They're not going to want to give you what you need if you're like blaming them and accusing and just making them, demonizing them and or suppressing yourself. You're still not going to get your needs met. And we all have needs. It's important that we state our boundaries and communicate more, right? And a lot of us think that we're communicating, but we're not. We're not fully sharing,
Yes.
what's going on inside of us. And that's what creates the bonding and the closeness, the depth of relationships that we all want, right? I'm super Scorpio in astrology. Like I have a lot of planets in Scorpio. So I've always been the type to like get to the bottom of things, because that's what Scorpio is, right? It's getting down, investigating, researching. So anyone who's around me, I'm, want to be very close with. I want to know the depths of you and to share like my depth. And so throughout my past and my relationships and things like that, even my family, friends, I always kind of been like, well, I want a deeper connection. And I would see how people were just like on a surface level, and it would really give me a lot of grief, because you feel alone, right? And we are all alone in this world. Like no one can get inside your mind with you and see your experience fully, right? So the best that we can do is to share that closeness and communicate from two people being their full selves. And now we have these healed paradigms, these healed perspectives that are not from a victim, fear, trauma, attachment problem, issue. It's coming from a healed point, right? That now we can actually be real, because even if I'm being honest, and I'm being, communicating what I feel, if it's still coming from that trauma and the wounding and, because that's how our brains work, right? All these pathways pick up patterns, and there's these neural pathways that when something comes in, the mind is like, ooh, I'm scared of that.
Yes.
It's the same thing that happened when I was a kid and that didn't work out. So I'm going to, I really need to fix that and like make sure they don't do that. But it's distortion when we come from that place, right? So when we communicate that. And so, yeah, that's where I've come from, is just like my own difficulties. The only reason that I can teach this stuff is because I have struggled with it, and I still struggle with it. And that's why I know what to say, because I had a really hard time, and I still do at times. And I don't want to be on a pedestal. I'm not a guru. I'm not a leader. I'm not a teacher. That I'm like you. We're all the same in that sense. And so that's something that I think is also very important that we establish, is that, if you're someone who goes from teacher to teacher to teacher, and this philosophy and this spiritual practice, and, if you look up to these people that you believe are perfect, or they don't share their true darkness, their struggles and things like that, I mean, that's all false, right? That's an illusion. And I think it's important that you guys understand as well, like, we want to hear your experiences. We want you to know ours too, because we all have trauma and darkness and, depression and anxiety and all of these different human experiences that we don't have to look at and put in a box and say, okay, no one talk about that, because that means that you don't have it together, you're not successful, you're not trustworthy, blah, blah, blah. No, actually, and I'm going to reference that book that I was talking about a minute ago. Those are actually conditions that you can use to expand yourself further, right? Mm-hmm. So I tend to go on a rant. I'm sorry about that.
No, I love it.
That was beautiful. And I can't wait to hear Kayleigh talk about her journey as well. But I just want to say one thing, which I think is really important, right? Because us as a group coming together, we made a decision to actually spend time together to create that bond and know what that will look like for us to share with others also. It's an intimate space that we want to create, but we're doing that intentionally so that here we can trust that we're like living the sharing, what we're sharing, we're living it, going through it, still going through it, and then wanting to create that bond with each other, which is so, so valuable. And Kayleigh, of course, has an amazing story as well. So I'm going to give it back to you, Kayleigh. Here, I feel like I'm on the news channel. Back to you.
I really find it beautiful that the three of us are at this point of just being ourselves and realizing our flaws and realizing that we have growth and accepting people where they're at. And I think and I remember saying this to you, Princella, is like, I don't like drama. I'm over the drama in my life. I love you where you're at. I accept you where you're at. Just tell me how you feel. It's okay. Like, we can work through it. And I think that's really beautiful that we're presenting that to others of like, come meet us where you are. And we are not perfect. We might say things wrong. We might mess something up. We might get frustrated, but it's okay. Like, we can move through that. And I just like really appreciate that. So it's been something I really appreciated about you, Princella.
Oh.
And you, Danielle, now that I'm getting to know you more. Okay. So you want to know what my journey is? Was that the question? I'm squirreling. Okay. I feel like I know I've covered some of it before. My journey started in a Lutheran church, very much like Danielle, and very much figuring out right away that when I got married, I was supposed to do everything for my husband. I was supposed to do everything for my children. I came last. Everything about me should be for other people. I need to give to others. What I wanted was last, right? You put yourself down, you put yourself last. And it was my youngest son, who's 10. He is autistic and he has sensory processing disorder and he has ADHD. And I think it was honestly through him, like, and realizing how much he needs, which is totally great, but like me realizing I can't keep giving, especially to my son who needs it. Not that all my other sons don't need it, but I can't keep emptying my cup, right? Like what I was taught isn't resonating with me anymore because it's not healthy. And I could feel it like wearing me down, and I could feel myself shutting down, and I could feel myself being like, I can't do this. And then, like you said, Danielle, I could feel myself having resentment. Like a lot of statements that I would say was to my husband, especially, if you loved me, you would do this. If you loved me, I would see this. And I eventually realized, like, oh man, that is such a twisted way of control, like of me trying to control the situation because I was on an empty cup and I didn't know what to do. And I was like spiraling. Um, and then, like I said, I kind of covered this, but we left our church. And I think it was, I've always been interested in psychology, like Danielle, like that's something that always interests me. And I think I know why now is because I also want to get to know the inner depths of you. No question is off limits for me. If I meet you within 5 minutes, I might be like, tell me your life story. I want to know the inner depths of who you are and why you do what you do. I want to understand you.
But you saying that also reminds me that when Danielle said that, I mean, there's so much that brought us together. And that's definitely
Right.
one of the things of, I
Right.
got to a point where when I was trying to break out of my shell, I was Googling how to talk about other
Yes.
things on the weather, how to say hi, how to talk to a stranger. I would Google
Oh,
those things literally.
yeah.
And then one day I just didn't feel like I had to anymore. And like a couple events in, I'm going, oh my gosh, I haven't even had to Google that. But the
Right.
re- but the reason is because I didn't want to go in with those conversations. I wanted to learn about somebody
Yeah.
that was there without coming across as offensive. Like, what do you do with your life? You know what I mean? I mean,
No.
I didn't want somebody to be offended by that if they weren't feeling confident with what they were doing.
Right.
But that's definitely another commonality that we have of ourselves wanting to go deeper with people, with each other, but also creating a space that people feel like they don't even think about their guard when they come into our space with us.
Yes.
And I'm so excited to be able to bring that to people.
But I eventually, with this journey, because like you, Princella, I was like, try, fail, fail, fail. What is happening? Obviously, this isn't meant for
Exhausting.
me. And I want to use the word download, which I always thought was a weird word, but it's true. This happened a few months ago. I had this like download of, within 3 to 5 years, I'm going to be doing retreats. I don't know who with, but this is going to be my path. This is what I'm meant to do. And like, I felt it. It felt different. It wasn't a thought. Like it was just there, and I felt it in my body. And I was like, okay, this is it. Like, this is what I'm supposed to do. And then, like, within a month or two, I freaking ran into Princella. Like, we met, and I was like, what is happening? It just felt
Yeah.
it all like come together, and realizing like the start of my journey of this little girl who was growing up in the church and feeling suppressed. I had a pastor once tell me I shouldn't speak out. I need to keep my mouth shut. And I laughed in his face. I was like, ha, that's not happening.
Good for
Like,
that
that is
little
not who
girl.
I
Look at
am.
you.
And like going from that person to like letting it just come to me and like letting everything happen and unfold, and like this where I am now has been mind blowing, but in all the best ways. So
Yeah, we're planning to do our first retreat next year, I believe. And with all of our skills and our teachings, I think it's just going to be amazing. It's going to be a transformative experience.
yeah,
And we're going to provide a lot of tools and just,
thank you.
embodiment practices and fun and yoga and cacao ceremonies and
Yes.
just really exploring and growing together.
Right.
So stoked
I
about that.
appreciate that you said tools, because we're not coming together to just talk to you and preach to
Mhm.
you. We're coming here to help provide tools for you, right? And I think that's an important thing. Like, we're not just here fluffing air at you. Like,
Yeah.
we want to work with you and together.
Thank you for watching this video on YourCompass.tv. If you enjoyed it, please do not forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more content just like this. Also, feel free to leave a comment and your thoughts and suggestions for future videos. We really appreciate your support and look forward to seeing you again soon. Take care.